Hello everybody, it's your boy Perry here today, and we're going to be seeing what would happen if all of the Germanic countries went to war with the rest of the world in 1938. Okay, so for this, we'd obviously be including nations now that I would say are ran by Germanics. So obviously the British Empire, it's arguable since most of the British Empire isn't Germanic. Um, But since the English are the ones who rule it, we're just going to put the entire British Empire. And yeah, so I chose 1938 mainly because it honestly feels like the most balanced year. Anytime after World War II, Germanics get crushed. Before 1938, it depends, like World War One, I think. Germanics are too OP. They just have like too much dominance in like Europe and Africa. So this is like the perfect balance. Germany, they're strong in 38, but they're still not, especially since they didn't take Czechoslovakia yet. They're not, really, they're not overpowered. They're just right. So, yeah, we're, we're just gonna see how this unfolds. Now, I guess starting here in North America, the United States at this time has a very weak military. They have a strong navy, but a very weak small army. Now obviously the U.S. industry is the biggest in the world. It's not even close. But it is going to take a little bit before that necessarily kicks off, which is going to be an interesting factor for the red team. Um, so for now, though, the USA, they just focus on smaller operation in Mexico. And they cut off Baja California. And they also start an offensive in the west, although the Mexicans do a pretty good job at halting this. Not necessarily because Mexico is that strong, just because, again, the USA at this time is not fully prepared for war. They have a civilian economy up. British Honduras gets overran pretty quickly, as operations to invade the Caribbean are still being planned. Also, Guyana and Suriname are going to be overran pretty quickly. Now to Europe, which will arguably be the most important theater. We're going to see the British invasion of Ireland. Now, this would obviously not be a quick process, but I'm just going to show Britain taking it because it would eventually happen. Over here, Germany quickly occupies Luxembourg, as we sort of see both the French and the Germans make moves. Germany will try to secure some gains here, particularly around where the French industry is in the north, pushing out from Belgium, sort of like our timeline, a lot of without the Blitzkrieg, since taking over France at this point would be pretty much impossible. Okay, they have, the Soviets and the Polish also fighting, which they have to worry about. So Germany's going to do some more minor offensives. France will also push up into Belgium a bit, and also, yes, Belgium is majority Flemish, well, not Wallonian, so we're going to count Belgium in the Germanic team. Over here in Czechoslovakia and Poland, we're going to see Germany do its main offensive to try to knock these two nations out. If they can knock these two guys out, um, that would put them in a better spot to fight the Soviets over time. Especially because the Soviets also are having purges right now. This is the peak of Stalin's purges. So the Soviets will be, well, basically everyone is unprepared for this. No one's prepared for this war in 38, but, some are more prepared than others. Germany begins minor offensives along the Sudeten border, although the Czechs are putting up a very fierce resistance as there are tons of forts. We also see the Germans push into Poland, in which this offensive actually goes a bit better for them because they have more fields, more flat fields. Eventually they cut off Danzig, get that, and they also force the Poles to retreat from Polsen. Up here also in the Baltic we see minor German operations around Lithuania, and in Austria we're going to see the Czechs and Hungarians sort of work together here to try to push into Austria a little bit to consolidate the front line. Obviously, Italy might help out with this too. Speaking of Italy, in North Africa near Egypt, the Italians begin the offensive here, And they're basically going to try to bet that the British are going to be overstretched, right? The British are going to have a problem here where they have to defend their entire empire. It's not going to be easy. So the Italians, they're going to try to concentrate, and they get to basically where they were in our timeline, near big Egyptian cities. Also, France and Iraq try and thing into Jordan. It doesn't go that far, but minor progress. And Kuwait, Britain could hold this if they wanted, but there's not fully a point. What they are actually going to do is they're going to instead focus their attention on invading Oman, which they do very easily, because again, Britain, they have complete naval supremacy here. The only place the blue team will have naval supremacy is the Mediterranean. That's one advantage the red team does have, and maybe the Pacific a little bit contested. And they also connect up with their Qatar territory here, so they're going to keep a little foothold in Arabia. They're not going to completely give all this up, especially because there might be oil here. Just good to have. Down here in Africa, the smaller British territories in Sierra Leone and Gambia, they get overran by the French, Portuguese colonial forces, while other colonial armies begin other offensives into Nigeria and Ghana. Ghana, we're going to say, gets overrun, but Nigeria is a bit slower as the British are putting attention into defending here. The Germanics have a slight advantage in Mozambique and Angola, where the Portuguese are a bit cut off. Belgium expands this part of, like, their core part of Congo, mainly just so they could further isolate the Portuguese colonial empire and just invade it. Also, Italy, as part of their broader operation toward Egypt, their goal is going to be to take this entire region. Okay, all of Egypt and Sudan. So first they're going to take Somaliland pretty easily, and then they're going to make an operation with the French to try to connect across southern Sudan. Here in India, we see, we probably won't see too much. Perhaps the British push a little bit into Iran. And they also make a dash toward Kabul and occupy the capital, which they stop since fighting further in Afghanistan. There isn't really a point. Over here, the British might struggle a bit is near the Thai border, in which a combined Chinese, French, and Thai army makes some headway into Burma, impressively enough. Malaysia, however, they don't make a dent, and this is more defended. And also, I would say like these nations got like a month to prepare for this. Let's not concern ourselves with the lore too much. And yeah, Japan is just gonna start their first invasion of the Philippines, taking Manila, and I guess using the army resources, which are now freed up in China. Also, there's two wars going on. I know there's two wars. There's Spanish Civil War and the Sino-Japanese War. So we're just going to say that ends. They just all agree to put their guns down and focus on the Germanics threat. Back over here in Mexico, the USA uses the fact that Baja is cut off to be a push in there a little bit. They also push next to the Baja California. I don't know what this region is called, like Sonora or something. And they make a bit of progress, although it's not super fast into Mexico, because again, they're not fully ready for this war. What does happen is that the British and the Americans are going to take over the Caribbean. So they start with Hispaniola and then move into Cuba. Again, this will not happen immediately. This will take some time, but it would happen eventually. So we're just going to map it out for simplicity's sake, as the real Latin American front line is going to be established. Germany, by this point, both the French and German offensives are halted, as we get a bit of a stable front line. Germany also pushes a bit in Switzerland, although again, they don't get very far, because the Swiss are highly fortified. They're more so pushing here, just for the strategic benefit, since they don't want to leave their southern flank open. Here in Czechoslovakia, the Germans continue to grind up against Czech defenses with minor success. They They're going to try to cut off Czechia from Slovakia, so they really concentrate here to cut this part. Although the Czechs are putting up a very good defense here. And in Poland, the Germans, they push out. They're going to get Krakow, and they push into Galicia. Now, one problem for the Germans here is that they're kind of split. They're trying to knock out multiple nations at once, which is going to be a bit of a problem for them. It's going to be hard to knock out the Czechs, the Poles, everybody at once. It's going to be very hard for them, even if they have like British and Scandinavian support, which let's be real, it's not going to be decisive. Oh yeah, in Scandinavia, the Swedes and Norwegians push a little bit into Finland. Again, before the Red Army can respond in full, they're trying to gain as much land as possible. Up here in Egypt, unlike our time, the Italians successfully break through into Egypt. The straining front line here in Sudan, they begin to push through. The Germanics try a counteroffensive into French, Central Africa, kind of to divert attention away, although it really is not going to do anything. And eventually, Italy takes all of northern Egypt, and then they begin to push down the Nile, which basically spells the end for the Egyptian territory. Also, they begin to push into Kenya, although this goes pretty much nowhere. Kenya is very mountainous and easy to defend. Down in Angola and Mozambique, they continue to push. Angola falls first, followed by Mozambique. Here in India, India pushes up a bit into Nepal and into Bhutan a bit, although not super far, as the Burma front line begins to stabilize. Japan continues to try to move into the Pacific, conquering the Philippines in full now, and beginning to send a lot of their army down here into Malaysia and Borneo. Here in Mexico, we see the USA take over all of Baja California, and they're slowly getting mobilized for war, pushing into the northern areas of Mexico. We'd see perhaps a landing in the Yucatan from their Caribbean territory. Again, just to further lock down the Central American region, as South America doesn't have the logistics to defend Central America that well. Also should probably mention the Panama Canal is under U.S. occupation. And would they be able to take this? I would actually lean on no. I don't think they would. So think about it. Who's here to take this, okay? The Colombians and the Latin Americans? Probably not. The logistics of that would be terrible. The USA would have a naval and an air edge. And the local Panamanians, they're not really going to do anything, let's be honest. So I would actually bet the USA successfully holds the Panama Canal. Here in Ulep, we actually see the Germans finally cut off Czechia from Slovakia, although many Czech soldiers are still here, and the Czechs on the other side are going to fight very brutally. However, as they begin to try to envelop Warsaw, this is when we see the Red Army begin to arrive, and basically just tell the Germans, nuh-uh. Yeah, the Germans weren't fast enough. The Red Army comes in time to save the Polish. That's the first, saving the Polish. The Red Army is liberators. Oh yeah, here in the West, the first British soldiers begin to arrive, which bolsters up the Germans a little bit. They have air superiority over northern France now, as the French are going to feel a little bit of pressure, although really still their trenches are dug in, so it's nothing too severe. This actually is going to look like World War I now. Okay. Also, obviously, Spanish reinforcements. Should probably say, too, Gibraltar's probably taken. One area Germany actually neglected, however, where the blue team will be able to push, is going to be near southern Austria. They actually take a lot of towns In southern Austria, the Hungarian Yugoslav Italians, as Germany just completely underdefended this region, which kind of smucks, as they even begin to reach the gates of Vienna. Here in Egypt, the British have completely failed their goal, defending Egypt, as the blue team now gets full supremacy over northern Africa. Here in Nigeria, the defense is a little closer, although still the French are going to push in. As the British and the Belgians decide for their offensives, that after the Portuguese have fallen, they're going to try to link up with Nigeria so they can establish a clear front line here in sub-Saharan Africa. So that would probably entail a bit of a push to here, and perhaps even a minor breakout by the Nigerian army into Cameroon. Here in Burma, more Japanese soldiers are arriving, which will give them a chance to break through, even cutting it in two, capturing some Indians, and just pushing up into Burma. More landing into Borneo. Borneo is boring. It's very boring to be in Borneo, you know? The Japanese, they're going to make a goal to take the Strait of Malacca. Since this region is still relatively underdefended, the USA hasn't fully sent their navy here. We're going to see a naval invasion of this part of Sumatra, some of the islands, as eventually the Straits area is taken by Japan, as well as most of the island of Sumatra, and eventually all of Borneo. As we begin to get into late in 39, perhaps, the U.S. war machine begins to ramp up. Mexican War begins to move faster as the USA rushes down the coast, trying to reach Mexico City. Also, obviously, the Pacific coast too. See some action. As the U.S. Army, yeah, they're just going to log Mexico, we could say. Also, over here in Europe, the USA begins to send some of its first minor aid, although, just like in our timeline, it can take a while for anything significant comes. So actually, for now, we see the Soviets begin a counter-push near eastern Prussia, which is going to be the big Red Army offensive. Soviets take huge losses, but the Germans are kind of stretched thin, so it actually works for a little bit. Here in Czechia, we're going to see the Germans begin to break through, as the Czechs are very much cut off. They try a breakout operation, which narrowly fails, as the Czechs, they're going to end but it's not going to work probably. Meanwhile, in Poland, the front line has mostly just stabilized. On neither side, it's really making big maneuvers. They just found defensive positions. Down here in Africa, the French realize what's going on and try to knock out the Nigerians, in which they will actually fail to do in time. They establish a link-up, but even still, it doesn't really stop the French. They're just going to keep on pushing. Also, Italy pushes into South Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, and toward Lake Victoria in that area. Japan and China continue to push into Eastern India, East India, eventually reaching the city of Bengal. All of Sumatra is taken, as the Japanese begin the next operation to Java and Star Island. I'm just going to call it the Star Island because it looks like a star. So yeah, Japan, they land over here. Although this is going to be a bit tougher, the Dutch and the Australians have actually a really strong defense here. Like in our timeline, the Australians, over in Papua, Australia had a very strong defense around southern Papua, which is where they stopped the Japanese advance in our timeline. So imagine that, but instead of Papua, it will just be in Java. The very populated island sees multiple invasions by Japan, and unlike in our timeline, though, another thing is that the U.S. Navy is not destroyed from Pearl Harbor, meaning that the Allies can, or the Germanics, can defend this area slightly better. Over in Mexico, the USA tries to push across Mexico to cut off the northern pockets, which actually does succeed. And they also make a surge down to Mexico City. The USA also begins slightly smaller landings in Central America. Not full invasions yet, but just to destabilize them. And also they begin to take these islands. Well, actually, do they begin to take these? Might be controlled by England. Oh well. They begin to take the smaller islands around the Venezuelan coast, as I think we all know where the USA will be looking next. All quiet on the Western Front, but on the Eastern Front we see Czechs. The Czechs fold. All the Slovaks are still going to be fighting. We also see Germany push back this Vienna offensive a bit, just pushing this area, as they even capture the Slovak capital of Bratislava, although they get quickly halted at the Carpathian Mountains. And they even take some Hungarian border towns too. Up here in Scandinavia, with Soviet and Finnish, a joint Soviet-Finnish offensive in two areas, one down here near the sea, sees a push across the Swedish coast, and another one up here in northern Norway to try to secure just this area of the Arctic. Over into the Battle of Bengal, we see Japan begin to push around here and just slowly encroach on the city. However, it's at this point where we would see something funny happen. The Indians noticed, hey, this is a Germanics versus the world, and you know, pretty much everyone here is Germanic, right? Obviously, Germany and Mustache Man is very happy to fight this war. This is kind of what he wanted. But India is like, maybe we could just... Yeah, so we see a few revolts break out across India, as the Indians have by this point taken a lot of struggle for a war which, honestly, they don't really need now. Is this going to be the end of British India? Not necessarily, but it will spark a turning point. Over here, however, in Java, things have actually had good news for the Germanics, as they push back the eastern invasion of Java, although the west of Java is still consolidated by Japan, as this becomes an interesting spot for trench warfare to happen. Star Island, however, is completely taken by Japan eventually. And everyone's favorite Mexico, Mexico City, is gone. It is gone, as Mexico basically capitulates. Mexico capitulating, British Honduras is soon liberated. Soon the Central Americans are occupied all the way up to the Colombian border. If I sound painfully exhausted, it's because it's 2 in the morning, by the way. Okay, so here in Francais, Germany decides maybe we can try a little offensive, particularly to perhaps to Dunkirk. We're going to concentrate the Penzors, and this time with British support, it actually works. It works pretty well. Although the French see this coming, a few of them are captured in Dunkirk with nowhere to escape, but most French just sort of retreat back to more of their river lines. Over here in eastern Prussia, Soviet Union continues the offensive, up in the pressure, as they sort of panic seeing the Czechs have fallen, so they're like, we really got to push here in the east. You also see a minor pushback out of the Hungarian region, as Bratislava becomes a kind of Stalingrad of Central Europe. Vienna is well out of reach, but yeah, they're going to start a fight for the Balkans as well. Particularly Italy, who doesn't really have anything else better to do. They already took Egypt, which was their main goal. So yeah, the Mediterranean will just be sending soldiers to Europe. Back here in Arabia, we're going to see the British do a more daring maneuver, and that will be a landing into southern Iran. They're using some of their spare forces here. So again, this is a little risky. These British forces could be used elsewhere, but they're going to use it here, particularly because they're going to try to hopefully tamper with the blue team's oil supplies. They connect over to India, take it all over. As it begins, the British begin to push through southern Iran. This is especially hard for the blue team to defend because the logistics in this area are terrible, as we know. The Soviet Union, they could try to send an army down here with the Turks, but they're going to be hell-bent to fully stop this British advance to the oil fields. Back down here in Asia, it's a bit of stalemate. Bengal is defended by the British Army. The Indian uprisings are still happening. The British aren't able to fully crush them, but they are kind of contained to regions the British don't really care about. No, not necessarily that. More like sort of like how Germany had like partisans in Eastern Europe. Like they weren't fully gone, but they're also like the British still have control over India. There's just a lot of resistance. By this point, the U.S. Navy begins to pick a fight with the Japanese Navy, and at some point they meet down here in the sea of where the fuck this area is called, and it's mostly a draw, but a draw is basically a win for the U.S. because they have more time to build up ships. We actually see a re-invasion of the Star Islands by the Germanics, as they just try to retake this island. Oh yeah, in the colonial front, it's just bullshit. The French are eventually halted at the Igbo region of Nigeria, while the British take a while to fully capitulate Gabon, although it probably would eventually happen they take Gabon, as now it would just be the brutal push up into Africa, which the Germanics aren't really interested in. Here in Latin America, we'd see the USA begin to make landings, as we're going to see the big advantage of the Germanics really take place, which is that even though they are smaller than the rest of the world, they are a lot more concentrated. You can't take out Anglo-North America. It's just impossible. They have a very high concentration here. You can't fully take out Northern Europe. Northern Europe and Anglo-North America will be what will carry the red team here. War mode. So yeah, down here, Venezuela, push toward Caracas, as eventually most of the northern part of Venezuela is taken. Over here in Madagascar, the Germanics make a landing here, take that over. And they get the minor push into Africa. Here in Europe, mostly a stalemate on the French border, and also mostly a stalemate on the east. The Soviets try to push across into eastern Prussia, and even for a minute they reach the sea and cut off Königsberg completely. But the Germans put an end to it. They make a counteroffensive on the other end of the city, force the Soviets to retreat, even encircle a few, as Königsberg is eventually just not going to be taken by the Reds. In the Iranian front line, we're going to see a British push up into Saudi Arabia, as the region of Kurdistan, the Turkish and Soviets, they try to put up a fight here, and the Iranians, but the British, with their logistical superiority, they will be favored to win here in the long term, I'll say. Star Island continues to get liberated by the Germanics. It's just Dutch colonial rule anyways. Borneo, southern tip, gets also invaded / liberated by the Germanics. Same thing with the southern tip of the Philippines. Down here, South America, the USA will be pushing across Colombia next. Colombia's next on the chopping block, I mean. And over here in Europe, the Germans industry, with the help from the Americans, begin the slow and brutal push east, eventually liberating eastern Prussia, and pushing into the Baltics a bit, and Poland again. Italy, France, they all realize basically the writing's on the wall. Germanics are going to win the long run, so they decide one last final offensive. They send an army in Switzerland to try to push into southern Germany and Austria, try to cut off Vienna, and this is like a full send, and yeah, blows over. Not gonna work. Not gonna happen. Over here in Kurdistan, whatever this region is called, Iran, British seize it, push into Iraq, taking over a good bit of the blue team's oil. So that's something. And yeah, as this war begins to drag, I think we can all see the blue team thinks they notice that the Germanics are winning, obviously. Now Germany, they want to continue, they want to destroy the Soviet Union, but the British and the Americans, their empires, their nations are getting a bit of unrest. So they're like, you know what, let's sit down. Why do we even have this war? Let's just negotiate conditional surrender for the blue team. So we'll just see what that looks like. Also, this is definitely not because it's 2:30 and I desperately want to go to sleep, by the way. Okay, this is all part of the story. This is all part of the lore. Okay, here is the peace deal. Starting in North America, the USA takes over Mexico. They annexed the North as states, and the Yucatan and Cuba, and they put in a puppet Mexican regime. They also put in puppet regimes in the Dominican Republic and Venezuela, and Panama. Also, British Guyana is expanded, and that's going to be about it. And the Dutch take French Guyana. That's their little war. Now, since Belgium suffered a lot, Belgium is actually going to get quite a lot. They're going to get this whole area of northern France. Britain, for this, will support a strong Belgium to keep the continent stable. Speaking of, also, Britain is going to take over Ireland. And Switzerland, I also just remembered, Switzerland is majority Germanic. So, in a case like this, normally I would color them gray to show them they're a moon crater, but we already have gray on the map. So instead I color them purple to show that they were banished to Agartha. Here in Africa, the Portuguese colonial empire is mostly carved up. British take some land from the French, and they liberate Ethiopia from the Italians. This would probably also be in their British sphere of influence, this new Ethiopia. They annex Iraq, capitulate Iran. Only area where they lose a bit is here in India, in which, again, this is sort of a compromise piece. Since India did revolt, they're not going to prioritize expanding India so much. So they actually let the Thai keep some land, although down the southern tip, Malaysia is bolstered. Australia is still the same. And perhaps here in Japan, Pacific Islands are taken. Also in Eastern Europe, oh yeah, Alsace too. Germany gets most of their World War I lands back, annexes Czechia, and creates puppets Slovakia, Poland, and Lithuania. Now, this territory the Soviets took, this is just the Soviet army annexing the rest of Poland, basically, since their soldiers are already here for the most part. The Baltic states are almost certainly next, as there definitely is no secret agreements to carve up the rest of Eastern Europe that have been made.